Don zooming in. Don,
You mean Dan?
is he zooming in?
Dan?
Don,
Dan.
Dan Strong, yes.
Yeah. Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah, zooming in.
What?
All right, Jim, we are live and ready when you are.
Thank you, Heather. Good evening, everyone, to this evening's workshop meeting of the Town of Henrietta Planning Board for Tuesday, March 16th, 2021. Members present: Matt Borkowski, Patricia Brill, Craig Eckert, Walter Liss, Steve McIntyre, Rick Page, town staff: Heather Voss, Deputy Town Clerk, Chris Martin, Director of Engineering and Planning, and Planning Board Attorney Dan Mastrella. Dan, are you with us yet?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yep. Thank you, Dan. All right. Well, we've first item on the agenda this evening will be the minutes from our February 16th, 2021 meeting. Anybody have comments or questions on the minutes? The chair will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Page, thank you. Sufficient second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Eckert. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The minutes are approved. Okay. First application on tonight's agenda, application number C21-001, Lehigh Ridge Subdivision for conceptual review of a 114 lot subdivision of 70.4 acres of property located at the end of Nevins Road and Authors Avenue in an R115 residential zoned district. Who's here representing the applicant this evening, please?
They're walking in at the moment.
Did you have a visual on them, or you just assume that they're on the way in?
Jack, I'm Bruce Howlett. I can get up and start any questions you want before they present it, unless you want them to present first.
Well,
Martin Jandra was here.
It's supposed to be James Criticos and Bruce Howlett.
Correct. James, not here, supposedly, in the parking lot.
okay. Well, Bruce, if you want to get up and start to give an overview of the project, if you're prepared to do that, at least, are you comfortable doing that?
Not the overview of the project.
Okay.
I can,
Mr. Chairman, this is Peter Vars from BME. I'm virtual. I was just going to observe. I don't know where James is, but I can walk the board through the plan if you would like. Do you have it available to you? Oh, I see them coming in. So, but I could get you started if you would like.
Well, thanks, Peter. I think, Gemma, are you prepared to begin a presentation? Okay,
We
thank
can
you.
get going.
Peter, thank you for stepping in.
Okay.
Oh, sorry about that, guys. I did the 5 minutes late, leave 5 minutes late, and hit every single light on the way here. So,
So if you need a minute or so to get situated, that's fine.
no, we're good. You guys got the plan up top, or Martin? Martin send it up for me? Perfect. I'll just get going. So my name is James Criticos. I'm with BME Associates. Bruce Howlett is with me. He's in the back. He's with Learwood Estates, the developer and the applicant. Tonight, we are here for the Lehigh Ridge subdivision concept review with you guys, really to just get your input on a 114 lot subdivision that's going to be located on the north side of the New York State Thruway and south of Wallman Drive, which is bordered by Nevins Road on the east and Authors Road on the west. The proposal that we're here tonight is going to be to subdivide 70.4 acres of land to create a 114 lot subdivision. What you see here is a color rendering of our our cluster plan. Also included with the application is a conventional plan, which is how we establish the density of 114 lots. Right now, we are proposing sidewalks around the primary loop of the subdivision, as well as connecting up along Authors Ave to the Wallman Drive intersection. That had kind of been discussed with some town staff previously, and those residents there did indicate they would be willing to provide an easement so we could construct the sidewalk in that location. Sidewalk over on the Nevins Road is currently proposed to terminate at the property line. We haven't gotten any other feedback from neighbors or anything. I know there was some things that were brought up at the neighbor meeting that we had about a month ago. The overall parcel right now is zoned R115, which does allow for the proposed development. But like I mentioned, we are going to incorporate the clustering provisions per New York State Town Law 278, as well as the Henrietta Town Code Section 295-60D. This helps reduce the overall environmental impact to the site, as well as provide some additional benefit to the community and the members. As I mentioned, a conventional plan for this was submitted based on the existing zoning to help determine the density. So that's going to be 15,000 square foot lot areas located outside of water bodies, 80-foot front width, as well as a 40-foot setback. Our clustering provisions are going to be typically around 9,000 square foot lots with 60-foot widths and maintaining that 40-foot setback. Our cluster plan right now does have a couple lots that are a little bit shy of that, so that's how the notes are prepared on the plans. But we'll obviously be kind of fine tuning this a little bit once we get into the preliminary design. The reduced development footprint from clustering these lots helps to reduce the lengths of the road and the utilities that will be dedicated to the town and the town will have to maintain. It also allows us to create a very large portion of open space on the site, primarily located south of all of the existing residents along Wallman in that neighborhood, and located kind of north of where all our residents are going to be. So we kind of help to create a very nice, natural, open landscape here. Bruce has a lot of plans to improve some trails, do some other natural seating amenities, kind of improve the area, make it a little more hospitable than it is now. And then there are some discussions with the town as to who would take ownership of that, how it would be maintained, which obviously we can work through. Our current intent would be to dedicate that to the town and have the town take responsibility of it. Although I know Bruce had, he does want to make sure that it is established. So he was willing to talk about some different like planting guarantees and things like that, that we may be able to help ensure that this really becomes a usable open space for both the new and existing residents out there. With the project, we are going to be doing some trail improvements to the Lehigh Trail. Currently, we're planning to extend the trail from the Lehigh Crossing Bridge under the thruway. We're going to carry it north on the site and then up and around our parcel. It will connect into our open space. Right now, we have that shown on the property to the east, which has been indicated by town staff that that's through conversation with the supervisor that they had agreed to place it there. If that changes for some reason, we are going to keep it on our site and we'll provide that in the rear of the lots. We'll make adjustments for that, but the intent right now would be to keep it outside of those if possible. For utilities, we're going to be served by public water, sanitary, sewer, and storm sewers. Like as I mentioned, we're going to dedicate all to the town. The water main and sanitary sewers will be extended from Nevins and Author Road. We did get some input from the town engineer on taking the sanitary sewer flows in a certain direction. So we are going to be trying to take as much as we can toward Nevins Road because there is some additional capacity over there. We'll be getting into actually how that breaks down a little bit more once we're able into preliminary design and we have a better idea of how the site's going to grade out and how we can actually run those utilities. For stormwater, there are several existing ponds out at the site. These were all created as part of the Bellhurst Gulf course that was kind of slated for this area. So this site has been pretty well disturbed already. A lot of different grading and features to help create that. It's kind of ironic now because we're going to be going back to a subdivision. So some of those hills are going to be things that we have to contend with our grading, but I'm sure we can make the site very usable. Ideally, we're going to be leaving most of those ponds out there. They have been determined, or they are in the process of being determined as non-jurisdictional wetlands. Martin Yanda from our office, one of our wetland specialists, is in the process of finalizing all that with the Corps. So we do have the ability to modify those if we need to. Ideally, we'll be able to utilize some of them for stormwater management, help to beyond just control the quantity and quality of the runoff from the site, also provide some other, again, usable amenities to the residents. Maybe there ends up being like a little dock or some of those other features that we can incorporate. We will be creating a larger stormwater management facility, though. We're going to be locating that in the northwestern portion of the site. That is kind of the ultimate low point of the site. So we're going to collect all the runoff from the area and take it to there and then discharge it to the west into, I believe it's Red Creek, which is where all the existing runoff goes. There's only a tiny portion of the site that drains to the northeast to the tributary, which eventually also connects into Red Creek further north along, I think it's up by Lehigh Station. Traffic obviously is kind of one of the big points of concerns that the town has indicated, as well as a lot of the residents when it came up at the neighbor meeting. We are commissioned with a traffic engineer to complete a study along Lehigh Station Road. We did work with the town engineer and the town supervisor on scoping that document. So that study will be included with our preliminary application. We're going to be studying 4 primary intersections along Lehigh Station Road, from Middle Road, Authors, Nevins, and then all the way to, I think it's East Henrietta Road, to the east of the site. So we're going to get a pretty good branch. I would like to note, though, that based on our traffic peak gen trip values, our initial conversations with the DOT, the state DOT, they indicated we're below the 100 peak threshold, so they technically wouldn't normally require a traffic study. However, because it's such a point of concern with the school as well along Authors Ave, we are going to do that. We are going to be including the school PM peak as well in our analysis. So we'll be looking from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. in the afternoon, just to make sure we're really understanding traffic implications from the school activities and what would actually be necessary if improvements are required at any of those intersections, or how our development is actually going to infect the levels of service for them. As I kind of mentioned about the ponds being non-jurisdictional, there are no wetlands present on the site. There's just a small portion of floodplain kind of in this nub out here in the southwestern corner. That's going to just be left as open space and also dedicated to the town. That's going to kind of follow the trail, and it has a existing pond on it. So again, there's more uses for amenities, trails, hiking, and the likes. That's kind of the project in just a quick nutshell. Obviously, like I mentioned, we did have a neighbor meeting about a month ago. We did get quite a bit of input from the neighbors raising their concerns. So we're going to be looking to try and incorporate or review some of those options as part of our preliminary application. But we're really just kind of interested in what other input you guys have that we can take into consideration as we're kind of moving to the next stage of the project.
Great. Thank you, James. I will admit, I like the layout that you've got there. It's a good use of that facility. What I'm concerned with, I don't think I've ever before seen a subdivision of this size where the only entrance and exit was through another subdivision to get there. And that's what really I'm concerned with all these cars in the morning trying to get out on already. They're minor subdivision roads. There's really nothing major to get into this development here, which it would be nice if there was some other access points, but I know there's not. But I just, that's my big concern. All these 114, there's probably going to be 2 cars at most of these houses in and out through the neighborhood. So I'll be curious to see what maybe you can come up with to address that. But at this point, I'll open it up to the board. The chair will recognize Mrs. Brill.
Thank you. That was one of the things that I wanted to talk about as well. That's the first thing that I thought of when I saw this. The only entrance and exit points are through the existing, and I am familiar with that area, the Sherman School, traffic. I think 140 or 114 houses times approximately 2 cars would be,
228,
oh, how many?
228
228? Why did I see 114?
Cars.
cars.
Sorry,
Cars, yeah.
thank you. And then the other thing I have highlighted is on the one plan that indicates,
Microphone.
sorry?
Heather's going to yell at you for not using the
Sorry,
microphone.
Heather, I'm leaning over, reading my plans. Anyway, on page 1, first page option here for the conceptual plan, it does show one of the cul-de-sacs coming out onto the existing trail, and I know there was talk about moving the trail and things like that. Can you address that for me a little bit? Because the other option doesn't disturb that portion of the trail, am I correct?
Yes, you are correct. So that is just the difference between the conventional plan and the cluster plan. So the conventional plan basically is used to establish density for preparing the cluster plan. So basically that shows what is allowable per your zoning code. The conventional plan is not what we're going to be building. That was just to establish that 114 lots could be placed on that property if we were following town guidelines, which is the 15,000 square foot, basically the R115 zoning.
Thank you for confirming. that.
Yep. So the cluster plan then is going to shrink those lot sizes so we can create that additional open space. We can lessen the lengths of road the town has to maintain. So with that plan, we are avoiding that trail. That cul-de-sac isn't in that location. And we're going to be leaving that whole corner. So basically that trail, Mrs. Bill, was basically right through here. So that cul-de-sac on the other plan kind of separated.
Correct. Yep. And have we addressed every possible option for additional points of egress?
We have taken into consideration a lot of the neighbor comments, and those are some other things that we're going to be looking into as part of the preliminary application. I know there's been some talk about utilizing the private property on the Hosmers to the east of us, as well as looking at some other options to connect through the Elks Lodge property to the west, and then the Hosmer property I'm all mixed up. The Elks Lodge to the east and the Hosmer property to the west. But obviously those are both private developers. We'd have to look and make sure that that's economically feasible for the client without being detrimental to the project. Access along the Hosmer lands would just be access by itself. Whereas if we went on the Elks Club, we might want to expand the development a little more. There is some usable land over there. But we're going to be looking into those things just to see what kind of economic impacts it would have to the viability of this project and, how feasible those would actually be.
And preliminary conversations have not been started at all with them?
No, we wanted to have your guys' input first before we kind of initiated those conversations.
Now, for that existing Hosmer piece to the west, would that be utilizing the new road they put in to access their buildings, businesses they put out back? Would
Yeah,
they
so
be
there's
tapping
been,
into that?
yeah, so some of the conversations, I know that the town supervisor as well as the neighbors were saying, hey, let's get all the traffic over here. We might be able to use it as like a construction road if we can come to an agreement with them, which would keep some of the truck traffic off of, throughout the subdivision. But ultimately, again, that's going to be based on, a deal between two private property owners. It's not something that we can force to happen. And obviously, it could be kind of detrimental if it was required.
And is the Hosmer property on the east or west side of the Lehigh Trail?
The Hosmer property is kind of this area of land.
Okay.
North of us, so it's kind of to the
Gotcha.
west of Nevins Road. That's going to be the other point that we'd have to review as part of that is now if we're creating another basically dedicated road intersection and introducing, what you say 114 single family houses or whatever the distribution going that direction would be, you're gonna be creating another intersection that's going to be a couple 200 feet away from the Nevins Road. The state DOT might have some issues with that because you'll end up with other traffic conflicts. But that's all going to be we're going to try and vet that with preliminary and really understand with the traffic analysis, what's going on Lehigh Station.
One of the comments was the location of the sidewalk along Authors Ave. Can you discuss that with us a little bit more detail?
Absolutely. So as I mentioned, there's been some positive feedback already from the residents on the western side of Authors Ave. So we're looking to extend a sidewalk along here to the Authors Ave and Walworth Drive intersection. There is an existing crosswalk there that leads to nowhere. But if you cross the street to the east side, there is sidewalk along the east side of Authors Ave up toward the school. So basically, we wanted to create a pedestrian connection for the residents here to get up to the school and through that subdivision.
All the way up to Lehigh?
We only need to go to Wallman's Ave. There's already sidewalk from
Up to
from Wallman's up to Lehigh and past
You
the
got it.
school.
Okay, and we already addressed, assuming 1233 Lehigh Station Road LLC is Hosmer.
Yes.
I have a lot of yellow going on here, so bear with me.
Take your
while
time.
Okay, we talked about this. Street lights proposed for the subdivision?
We aren't proposing any at this
Yeah,
time.
Right, I can't imagine where they would be other than if a new road went in.
Yeah, we don't, they're not necessary. Obviously, if it's something the town would like us to do, but I think the existing subdivision doesn't have them. We don't feel they're necessary for this one.
I have been on this property for hiking and different things, and I can't envision what is on that non-designated area between the two parcels. Can you tell me what you would be doing to put some type of a barrier? Exactly.
This area here?
Yes.
Well, that area, the northern 300 feet there, so think of football field length. This strip here is where the high power lines are located right now. So we won't be doing any permanent development or structures below that. That's why we've got our stormwater facility slated under there. All the underground stuff, the Power Authority and RG&E, they don't have issues with as long as we go through the appropriate permitting steps with them. But that is going to be kind of the main focus of the open space improvements. Now, this is going to be enhanced with new trails. We might do some seating areas. Like I mentioned, there might be like a dock or something incorporated into one of the open water areas. We're looking to do some kind of natural, low maintenance vegetation that we can plant and grow in there. So that way, once the town takes over, they can, go in there and mow it once or twice a year. There's not really a heavy burden on maintaining that property. But again, the idea would be to allow that to kind of continue to vegetate in, plant some trees for enhancement, really kind of just create a very natural landscape between, our proposed homes and the existing ones to provide a buffer going both ways, as well as like a very, usable open space with those trails, hiking, exactly what you said you've used the property now. So we're not looking to really take away from that. There's already a lot of trails that have kind of been handmade in there from the residents just walking around and things like that, and from some of the different golf course activities when that was planned. So
Did I hear you say put a dock potentially on the pond?
yeah, I don't know if there's an access point or just something for the, if they want to take a little kayak or go out fishing or something in the
And
little
that's
pond.
just an idea.
That's just an idea. We're not committing to anything.
Yeah.
Those are just things that we've kind of discussed internally.
Dedicated to the town, you said, for that pond?
Well, that'll be part of the open space area. So that larger one would be dedicated. So I assume the town probably would have a issue with a dock from a
That's exactly what I'm
safety
thinking.
concern.
Thank you.
You can save some for us, Patty.
I might have to. Okay. That is what I had. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mrs. Brill. Chair will recognize Mr. Page.
Thank you. I assume that you need, well, I think I know this, you need a zoning variance from the town board, correct, in order to go to the cluster development?
I don't,
So this board will grant Chris Martin, Director of Engineering and Planning. So this.
Chris, we can't hear you.
You got to turn your mic on probably.
I think you have to hold it down maybe.
Just touch.
Hey. Let me. Well, how's that? Is that better? Oh, Dan, do you want to explain it then, or do you want me to?
Oh, Dan, you're on mute. You're on mute.
Dan, we can't hear you.
No.
No.
All right, I'm going to step in. So typically, it'll be this board that'll approve the 278 concept. At the preliminary stage, after if it gets preliminary subdivision approval, then the next step will be the town board.
Correct, okay.
The town board will grant approval of the open space. And then if it reaches that hurdle, then it'll come back to this board for any final subdivision approvals. So that the planning board takes care of the town law 278. So let me see if Dan collaborates on that.
Okay.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's correct. The town board has to approve the open space. There aren't variances needed, but the town board does have to approve the open space offered and in essence, how it's going to be utilized, if it's going to be accepted by the town, if offered for dedication, or if it's going to remain in private ownership, how it's going to be preserved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
So having understood that, I thought Peter Vars was very creative in saying that with the cluster development, the roads would be so much shorter that when they dedicate them to the town, there'll be less plowing and maintenance, but that was a good try, but not a significant reason to go with a section 278. Help me with I think we had eight things tonight, but wasn't there around 28 acres of open space?
Yep, that's what's shown here. So
Okay,
the combination of this large area here as well as this 4.5 acres down in the corner
was the
here.
4.5 acres, was that the wetland?
Yes, that is part of the wetland and floodplain. So we're not proposing any development in there either on the conventional plan or the cluster plan. We're not even planning on getting past the Lehigh Trail. We don't want to have access across it. There's really no reason. And that's kind of another benefit of allowing us to do the
There's really
cluster.
nothing you can do with the wetland. Okay, so the majority of usually with the 278, there's some benefit returned to the town for allowing the cluster development, okay? So with the open space that you're dedicating, which would be approximately 24 acres, that's all in that brown shaded area that you just described.
Correct.
Okay. Years ago in the school district, we had a situation come up, and if I remember correctly, there was a somewhat significant negative effect of having human activity underneath on the high tension lines. There was a study that was done, and I can't remember the term that was used, but one of the questions I had or would have is, isn't that a dedicated right of way to the people that own the high tension lines?
No,
it's not a right of way for them?
It's an easement across our property. So they have the rights to maintain their facilities and they have pretty much unlimited access through it. They also have development review rights on it. So anything that we do under there, we have to submit and get approval for, basically to ensure that we're not causing and they have engineers and safety staff, that review the application and make sure that it's not a detriment. So a lot of it is to do with making sure you maintain adequate separation from things. I've run into cases where we're looking to do like a parking lot under some high power lines and they get pretty detailed with the electrical field analysis of, where those poles are and different grounding things. For this situation though, you're really not talking about too much because we're not going to be proposing any light fixtures down in there. So we're just going to be having the roads as well as the underground utilities, which don't really, they don't typically have any comments or any issues with us creating access points under them. If we were looking to do a house or something under them, they would have a lot of issues with that. So they wouldn't let us propose that.
I would have to be told by someone a lot smarter than I am that the open space that you're asking the town to accept as a benefit to cluster is safe for trails and kids playing and there's open space. So I just wanted to throw it out there. Can you talk to me a little bit about your plans for phasing? How the 114 houses, is it going to be phased at all or?
Yep, we are planning on phasing this. We'll be on our preliminary plans, we'll be indicating how we're going to phase it. I think once we get into it, we'll have a better idea of exactly how it will be phased. To start, I think we were planning on coming off of Authors Ave down, doing the cul-de-sac and then working our way some juncture to the west. It's going to kind of depend on market viability at the time, as well as, the different design features. As I mentioned, we're going to be looking to take sewer in two directions. So like that may play into a factor into, what can we build up front and take down Authors Ave versus what we need to take down Nevins Ave in the future.
Those are my biggest concerns. It would really be nice if you could work a deal with Hosmer to bring the construction vehicles in that way, just for the residents on Authors and the other streets there. Again, the rest of it was mostly engineering. That was the issue as far as accepting the 278 or not. And I don't know, it would be up to the town board whether they took dedication of the open space or not. Correct? Yes, I believe that's so. The town could accept it in dedication or deny it, correct, Dan?
That is correct. They are not obligated to accept it.
Okay. That was the main things that I needed to hear. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Page. The chair will recognize Mr. Borkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
Yeah, the biggest thing, and I'm not trying to belabor this, but as Chairman Gruner brought up, how this design is actually really bothersome to me. I understand that what you're working with, this is actually pretty elegant because you're making it work. I like how you're keeping it away from the current neighborhood. I know Mr. Howlett does a good job with the neighbors in general at other things, so I'm aware of those ideas, but it's not just the traffic, it's fire vehicles. It is construction vehicles. There's a lot that I don't like about the traffic portion of this. I know you're going to do studies, but that is my main concern. In the engineering, there's plenty here that I can get into. I'm not gonna cream you on it because honestly, it's concept. That's why we're here.
Yep. My
biggest single thing is those people are stuck, and our fire vehicles are going to take a while getting there. That doesn't bode well by me. So that's really my biggest concern. The other stuff that you've kind of talked about. Oh, there was one other thing. Where was that? Number 2 on general talks about it's the archaeology there. It's a sensitive area. I know that we've already been there because it was the Belfry, right?
Yep, there was an entire SHPO study for the entire site already completed, so it's cleared. Yep.
Perfect. Okay. I figured as much with that being the history of there. I think that's it. Just put a lot of consideration into that. I know cost effectively that can get really dicey, but I do not like those people being stuck where they are there unless they can get out another way. That's just me. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Borkowski. Chair will recognize Mr. Liss.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Some of the concerns that I had have already been covered, but I wondered if you could just point out the Lehigh Valley Trail within that drawing again and how it runs. I've been on it many times in that area, and it's.
So right now the trail runs below the thruway underpass. It kind of comes north here and then it starts to meander. It's actually right now kind of falls inside of our site a little bit before it makes its way back toward the Hosmer area. Like I said, what we're looking to do is basically do improvements from this underpass up and then basically follow the perimeter properties and then again connect back into the same location. But that would just be improved. We're going to do a real trail section and make it quite a bit nicer.
And along the thruway, you have noted that you're going to be some type of fencing. Have you thought about what you're going to do?
Yeah, so right now we're going to be looking to do something pretty low key. We're looking to do something that's just really to deter people from getting in and out of that. We're not really looking to create a hard physical or visual barrier. So we're thinking something along the lines of like some pressure treated posts with some high tension wire, like white coated, going through, and then that would kind of just prevent children or somebody from going in and out. And then the rest of that we can augment with some natural features, some landscaping, things like that. If we had some room, we might consider to do some berming, but I think that really comes down to how the site's graded, because obviously we're not going to be getting too much into the throughways right away. They generally don't like you to get on their property for basically anything unless you have a very, very good reason. So doing berming and screening is typically not something that they take into consideration.
You have a current project in Walworth, do you not, on a similar size area?
Yes, I do.
Would that be someplace that we could go and look at your, style of construction and as time goes forward, it's,
Right at Howland Acres.
because it's a
So
similar,
You would, the plan is a little more like there would be at Howland Acres as far as open space. In Walworth, there basically is open space, but it's totally wetland. And the area is a little more upscale that those houses are going to be, and they're just going to be starting being built. And in July, the plan for the Lehigh Ridge is more of a first-time home buyer, young family, first purchase. We're trying to keep the cost down to provide an access to people that fit the town of Henrietta and access.
Okay.
So it's a little bit different of a
Okay.
development.
All right.
It's Penfield Schools.
All right.
Over there, but so then we do have some information on what they are planning at this point to do with the houses.
thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Heather, if you wouldn't mind, we do have a couple of the building graphics that if you could put them up on the screen just to kind of give the board an idea of the different types of homes we're looking to build out here. So these are just I think there's 4 total of these, just different configurations of, like Bruce mentioned, these kind of houses meant for, first-time home buyers or people looking to downsize or something, just maybe get out of the cities now with everything COVID going on in the world.
Do we know who the builder would be yet?
Ryan Holmes is going to be the builder. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, good. Thank you. Shall we recognize Mr. Eckert?
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
So I'm sorry, I wanted to make a quick clarification on the trail. The Lehigh Valley Trail currently ends at Nevins. It comes up, it does meander through the site, but it dead ends technically at Nevins. So people come up through Nevins and then continue all the way north to connect back in at Florendon on the other side and continue north. The town has an easement on the access road that Hosmer put in for Dunn Tire. The easement is there, just the actual path is not in yet from the road north to Lehigh. So connecting those two with this is what we're looking at doing, connecting A to B to make it viable all the way through. The trail specifically by property goes straight north from the thruway on the west side of Hosmer's property. That's where the trail exists now. And then it just dead ends again at the railroad tracks, which actually take over. So at some point the railroad tracks end and the trail begins, and that's what we were working on trying to figure out. So that's just some clarification on where that goes now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There wasn't the southern portion of the thruway also considered open space for this project?
No, we didn't include that as part of this project. I know there's been discussions separately about different uses for that land, but we did not include that as part of this application.
Okay, so it's a separate piece of property that he still owns?
Yes.
Okay. I thought that came in at one point. Was that talked about?
It was talked about internally with the supervisor, you and myself and the applicant, but no, nothing was finalized at this point, Craig.
Okay. So I think everybody else, I have only one other comment, I guess, and one other thing that we discussed was the sidewalks that are going through on the main loop that connect Nevins and Authors. I think I'd like to see the sidewalks continue on the stubs, at least to the cul-de-sacs. I know going through provides an access point for people to walk from A to B, but if they're still walking to the bus loop or still walking to a bus that gets it to the intersection, I'm going to say that the people on the end of those cul-de-sacs are going to want sidewalks to get their children to at least the intersection safely during snow and ice operations, anything else that goes on through the winter and summer throughout the year. So I would suggest adding sidewalks to at least the cul-de-sacs on those two stubs.
Okay, we'll definitely take that into consideration as we're preparing the preliminary plans.
Great. And then besides everything else, that's all that I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Eckert. Chair will recognize Mr. McIntyre.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
You said that the subdivision in Walworth was first-time home buyers and
I think the Walworth one is a little bit more upscale, correct? Yeah, this will be first-time
This one
home
will be
buyer,
first-time
first-time
home-
home buyers. The one in Walworth is a little more upscale.
So these are people with active lives going to and from their jobs. And I don't want to keep hammering on the same subject as the other people, but I think you should be aware of the fact that, how the board feels, different board members feel. And I think that traffic is going to be the big issue here. I can't imagine how 114 residences with, daily traffic flows are going to be handled by Nevins and Authors Road, especially with the schools there.
Yeah, so 114 vehicles, I can't remember what the exact number is, but, or 114 single-family houses, it's somewhere in the range of, I think, like 60 or 80 peak hour trips, based on that. So, and that occurs obviously sometime in the AM and PM peaks. Obviously, the traffic study that we're going to have to prepare is going to do a detailed analysis of, distributions, how all those intersections work, level of service, how, our traffic will affect those level of service, as well as identify, any improvements needed. I know, obviously, there's been some discussion about a traffic light at Authors in Lehigh Station, and that'll all be reviewed as part of our study, whether that's warranted or not. Everything on Lehigh Station is a New York State DOT road, so there does have to be some justification to them as to why we need it, not just, we want it there.
Yeah, if you're looking forward to the traffic study, we'll be seeing that, won't we, Chris?
Yes, Chris Martin, Director of Engineering and Planning. Yeah, when we do get a traffic study in, we'll share it with the planning board.
Okay. You mentioned that you wanted to put just some basic fencing along the New York State Thruway.
Yep, that's what we were just talking about with the posts with like some high tension, like white coated wire, again, just to help deter animals or, children or anybody. It's not going to be a barrier that's, insurpassable. It's just something to help deter them. And then we can use, specific plantings and trees and stuff to help create some more buffering, natural buffering between the two.
What will be your plan for encroachment on the wetlands by the residents?
You mean into like the existing ponding areas that are on the site? They're non-jurisdictional, so technically we can fill them in. There's no regulation preventing us from doing that. But we do have to take that into consideration when we're doing like our conventional plan, because we can't take that area into consideration to start for how we determine density. Ideally, we're going to be leaving majority of those on the site. There are a couple of them that are just, low-lying areas. They're only a foot or two deep. They're not really high-quality ponds. Some of them are obviously a little bit nicer, like the large one in the central area. So I think we were talking about doing signage on those, permanent posts on markers, kind of to delineate where that ponding is once those are established. So there will be something to help the town kind of fall back on once those are created, if the object is to maintain all those forever.
The signs on post have been used on other subdivisions to just tell the residents for the lots adjoining these areas that they can't encroach and build structures on it. And
correct.
And take all the trees down or whatever's there.
Yep, and Bruce has had another subdivision where he's used something similar and had good success there, so.
Do you anticipate any issues with the sound coming from the New York State Thruway?
Not really. I mean, obviously, somebody buying a home there is going to obviously know that the throughway's there. I think actually this development is actually going to provide a better benefit to the existing homeowners, because now we're going to be constructing some more permanent sound barriers from the throughway. So it should help to dampen the sound for the existing residents. But obviously buying a home there, you will know the throughway's there, and you're going to end up hearing it to some extent for sure.
Should for some reason, you said building structures are going to create an existing sound barrier for the adjacent neighborhoods, should that actually turn into something that reflects and amplifies sound into some of these established neighborhoods, would you be willing to try to mitigate that with some sort of a soundproof barrier?
I think any sort of soundproof barrier, like within the throughway property, is kind of going to be at their direction. Again, I kind of noted that they really don't care too much about doing other development and stuff like in the area like this. So we really look to try and do it more natural as opposed to building a big, concrete wall to block the sound. Use more trees, plantings, things of that nature.
I think that's where they were coming in with the berming and the landscaping, because those are also effective ways to mitigate the sound.
Correct. And if it becomes an issue, there's obviously some different applications we can do to the houses themselves, some soundproofing, some, different types of windows that help really, keep the sound out, especially at night when it carries a little bit more.
Okay. I'm all set, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. McIntyre. Mr. Mistrella, do you have anything you'd like to add at this point?
Nope.
Thank you. Mr. Martin?
Yeah, the only thing I'd like to add is we did take a second look at the conventional plan. And there were a few lots that we want to question, or we were questioning whether you could actually get a house on there with a usable backyard. So we'll be providing you with a separate memo of some of the lots that we have concerns with that you can take a look at.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll get you guys, we'll review and then get you a comment response back and we can go from there.
Thank you. No, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Martin. So, yeah, it sounds like traffic is the big issue. Maybe you give away an easy pass when you sell a house and we dump all those people on the throughway. I don't know, but it's to me, that's problematic for all those cars to be running down a couple of suburban residential streets to get out to Lehigh. And as Mr. Borkowski talked about, the emergency vehicles and things too. So take a look at that and we'll, I'm sure, have more comments when you guys come back.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys very much for your input.
Thank you.
We look forward to the next meeting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda, application number 20-004 Riverwood Tech Campus, Building E, for final site plan approval of a proposed two-story, 40,625 square foot industrial building on a 10.2 acre lot located at 4485 East River Road in an industrial zoned district. Who's here representing the applicant?
James Creedicos of BME Associates, long time no see.
All James, all the time. We appreciate it.
Good evening, everyone. Also here with me this evening is Fred Rinaldi Jr. This is my typical partner. I know some of you guys remember his father being here with some of the other applications we've been at previously, but normally Fred's with me doing all the meetings. So I think his dad might have fully transitioned out of that stage at this point. But we're both really excited to be here for this project. I think it's been about a year since we had originally submitted this. I think we submitted in March of 2020, right before COVID hit. And then we kind of went through tabling the application for a bit. And then we had a little bit of plan revisions based on some different tenant interests. So I'll kind of walk you through kind of the whole picture. But our proposal that we're here tonight for is to subdivide our overall Riverwood Tech Campus property, which is a 65 acre property now. We did lose some land to RG&E as part of the process a couple of years back. But the lot we're looking to create here is a 10.2 acre lot. Heather, if you could put up the overall rendering of the whole campus, just to give them a good frame of reference as to where this is located. If you don't have it, that's fine. I think I sent it to you kind of last minute. Oh, perfect. So this is actually something we just prepared for some of their marketing purposes, but I thought it would be helpful to you guys just to kind of see the development from the campus as a whole. So this parcel we're looking to subdivide is in the northeastern corner of the site. It's going to be kind of right off the existing northern access into the property. We are looking to reconfigure the drive lane to be in line with Lehigh Station. That's something that's going to be down the road once they do some other improvements along that corridor. But as for now, we're looking to basically fit our development into the existing site to support this new structure. So when we originally submitted this plan, this building was proposed as a 80,000 square foot project. I think it was actually included on our overall campus plans, and we kind of just outlined what we had envisioned for it. And then when we resubmitted it in March of last year, we had reduced the footprint of the building and went up. We were originally proposing a 3-story structure, which would have had a covered parking on the whole first floor. So it'd really be kind of a constructed second and third floor building. Based on some tenant changes and things that occurred over COVID last year, some of the desires changed a little bit, and we are looking to drop the building down. So it is now just going to be a 2-story structure, kind of holding the same footprint. The site's going to have 2 access points. It's going to have one onto the existing access drive there, and then it's going to have a secondary access coming off of an existing parking lot a little bit to the west of the building. We aren't or proposing any improvements in the East River Road right away at this time, with the exception of going out there to connect to the public water supply. As I mentioned, we are looking to realign that future drive when they do those improvements. I think they're slated for 2024, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll discuss how that's going to configure at that time. Right now, we're proposing 312 constructed parking spaces. We did take the Conservation Board's recommendation into consideration, and we're going to be land banking another 48 parking spaces out there. We feel that the 312 is going to be adequate based on the couple tenants. I think that the Rinaldi's have currently locked down, but there are some other outstanding space still in there, so there's a little bit of flexibility. Stormwater for the site is going to be managed by two bioretention areas that are going to be located to the northern part of the parking lot. These are consistent with what we had always shown on our overall stormwater drainage for the campus. It was actually included with our drainage design reviewed by Vanguard Engineering, and actually is included in our notice of intent that we currently have open for the site from the remainder of the construction activities. This development, as I mentioned, has kind of scaled back quite a bit from that original plan. So we have a lot less development footprint. The original plan required the relocation of that northern access drive because we had a lot bigger parking area. But as you can see now, we've really tried to compact this development to the minimum size necessary to support that building. So with that, we're going to basically discharge, collect all the runoff from the impervious areas, take it into the bioretention areas, and then all of that discharges north into one of the tributaries that runs to the west and right into the Genesee River. Sanitary sewer for the site's pretty simple. When we were doing overall campus improvements, we brought a new sanitary line from the large Pure Waters transmission main that kind of runs on the eastern side of the Genesee River. So we're basically just going to tie in a new lateral for the building, and that's all we need to do for this. Water service, like I mentioned, we're going to be bringing just a new service in here. Since we're subdividing this, the Water Authority requires we have its own service for each lot. So that's pretty easy. We'll have a backflow prevention device, on-site private hydrants. We did receive some comments from the fire marshal and the building fire department about placement of that. So we're happy to relocate those to where they requested them. Lighting out here, LED, dark sky compliant fixtures in the parking lot. We aren't going to have any building mounted lighting on this. Heather, if you wouldn't mind bringing up any of those building renderings, I can give them an idea of what the structure will look like. These are going to be from prior to us dropping the building to a 2-story, but the intent is still the same. It's going to be a highly glass, modern looking building. It's trying to tie in with a lot of the existing architecture on the site. So this is an aerial view from above the northern part of the existing buildings. So the building proposed kind of central to the image there. So right now that's a 3-story structure. We're basically going to chop off the bottom and just drop it straight down. So you can see how it kind of fits very nicely into the surrounding landscape. We don't have any tree removal as part of the site. We're going to leave all of the existing trees and buffering along that tributary. There's some wetlands there. We're just completely avoiding those to the greatest extent possible. To give you guys a frame of reference, the overall campus is about 70% green. We continually scaled it back based on what we were seeing. We even land banked more parking than we had originally planned on doing or what was approved. And then our new lot we're going to be creating is about 60% green. A lot of that has to do with the green space here and along the corridor and perimeter of the site that we can maintain. I did have we did get some comments based on the new landscaping recommendations that the town imposed. And I don't recall if all you guys were here when we went through this originally, and Fred Sr. was here to discuss some of those. Our main goal out here is to really preserve the existing natural landscape, which we've done a fantastic job, in my opinion. I encourage you guys all to go out to the site and just drive around. It's a gorgeous campus. They have done all sorts of other amenities with the trails. Everything out there is fantastic. Please go look at the site. But this new building is going to kind of tie into that existing building. Like I said, it's going to have a lot of glass features, and we really want to draw that architecture out. So we're going to have minimal foundation plantings and things of that nature. And I think that's where some of the recommendations in those plantings kind of don't always coincide with what we're looking to. I think they're adopted from the National Landscape Association. And I think one of the recommendations had to do with installing, like, you can't have more than 10% of any type of like shrub species. So we had only proposed a couple shrubs in some of the 2 parking islands that we have, but we didn't feel that we needed to have 10 different types of plants in those 2 small landscape islands. So our kind of conclusion was, well, let's just take them out. We'll put cobbles in there. It'll look just as nice and be less maintenance, or we can plant them as grass. I mean, either one's fine. But similarly on the trees, we feel that we've done such an incredible job out here of really preserving nature and working around the existing environment that we're well above and beyond, some of these guidelines based on, number of trees per disturbance. When we met with the conservation board, it was actually in the fall of last year. They didn't have any concerns with us planting more comments. They didn't even indicate the number of trees that they were going to require. Further, this whole area, this development was already previously disturbed as part of the overall campus. We use this site to basically balance all our earthwork from the other activities. So anything excess we had, we stripped this area, we placed it, compacted it, and then once we were done, we were able to basically finalize our design so we don't have any material we're taking on or off site for either project. So we felt we've done enough to kind of adequate that. And further on that is we don't really like planting kind of small new trees with the backdrop of these, excessively tall, mature trees. It doesn't quite fit completely. But we do have, like I said, 18 trees planted. Just some things to help kind of break up some of the view shed, as you're coming in along the access road. So that's kind of the project. Like I said, we're really excited that we're finally going to be getting approval on this and hopefully kind of breaking ground sometime this year. So if you guys have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them. I know Fred loves to talk about this project, so.
Thank you. It's a very handsome building. The one comment I read about, and I never would have thought this was an issue, was from the airport authority that talked about the reflection off the glass and how it might disturb the pilots coming in. So there's a special glass or some tinting you'll need to do on the building. Is that?
Yes, I think correct. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of applications to the glass. It's not just a full reflective barrier. I mean, if you go out onto the existing campus and you look at the existing buildings, that whole thing was basically gutted down to just steel and the roof. And they've done an immaculate job replacing all that glass. And I know this building is not going to be, any different from the quality of workmanship that they do out there.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect it would be. Yeah, very good. Mr. Renier, did you have something you wanted to say, or?
Just real quickly, good evening.
Good evening.
With regards to the glass, we'll send the spec, but this is the glass. The glass is really the magic with this building, as it was with the prior 4, where the prior 4 had this Core 10 exoskeleton. We didn't want to challenge that, so we brought the steel infrastructure inside and we've wrapped the exterior. And the other thing I wanted to mention with regards to the building, because it has great responsibility as it relates to the existing tenancies, what we're noticing, this change is less a result of COVID. In fact, not a result of COVID. It's more a result of watching our organic growth on campus. As soon as the end of this year, I will not be able to accommodate any additional growth of the existing tenancies. This is designed specifically to accommodate that. There isn't a thing you could celebrate more as a developer than to have your tenants stay as long as possible. And so this is, it feels almost like an incubator hub, an extension and evolution, and it's meant to complement and not challenge the really beautiful existing architecture. And then with regards to the landscaping, if you remember, this campus was largely a mix of grasses, and it was done for a very specific purpose because the topography was so special. This is one of the most unique views. People are so used to looking from the existing campus out and not from this edge in. And if you've been to the lodge and seen that view, it's spectacular. This shares kind of that same that same vantage point where you actually get to see all that line of those 4 structures against one another, and it's quite beautiful. So I think that this is truly a perfect bookend to the project, and it also comes with some awesome public infrastructure with the final with this final phase. And if we're lucky enough to get approved, we are hoping to see this ground broken this year.
Great. Thank you very much. The chair will recognize Mr. McIntyre.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
The one question that probably I'd like to address was on the town's comments, number 2, the reduction in the 100-foot transitional buffer.
Yeah, so right now we have, the closest point of our property to our building is about to this property corner here. And it's about 134 feet. The edge of our pavement, we got about a 10-foot grass strip and a 26-foot wide lane. So that is just clipping just shy of that 130 mark or at 125 there. And further to mention, we're not taking out any of that buffer. We're leaving it 100%. So that transitional buffer in our mind is established, and we really don't need to do too much. We're actually probably improving it more than anything by dropping the building the whole story. So that structure is going to be, pretty set with the top of those trees, kind of as that graphic we had on the board shows. So in our opinion, we're doing an excellent job at maintaining that buffer to the residents that are located to the north at the lodge.
So are you requesting a reduction in the transitional buffer?
Yes, then we'll be requesting a reduction in that to allow us to do the proposed plan.
Want to go to 100 to what?
I think if we would go down to, I don't know, what do we need? Probably like 90 foot or so.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't even know if it's that
I have
bad.
my markup, so I want to say it was fairly close. So we could call it even 90 maybe?
Yeah, so I think 90 keeps all the pavement and everything outside of that property.
Do we have to do a roll call on that, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Okay.
Do that. Yep.
All right. Other than that, any building mounted lights that are going to be outrageous?
We don't have any building mounting lights proposed
No
for the
building mounted
structure.
lighting at all?
Nope, just dark sky compliant lighting, and then we're doing a little bit of some bollard lights along the walkways to help provide some extra indication for the pedestrians.
Okay, all right. I'm all set, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. McIntyre. Chair will recognize Mr. Eckert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No, I'm all in favor of this project. It's going to complement this campus beautifully. And the work that's been done out there has been phenomenal. Using that existing structure that has been open for quite some time and turning that into something as viable as it is a benefit. So I am all for that. I'm going to second the comments, I think, from the Conservation Board. I know that on any given time that I've even been through there on any given occasion, half the parking lot's full. This is a different style of office and management and things that they do in there where not a lot of people come into the office every day. So if there's a way to reduce the parking structure, again, I'm all for that as well. I know that you're not going to put in less than what the applicants need. So a way to reduce that pavement section to keep more green space, I'm all for as well. So I don't want that to be also a hindrance. I know you're going to put in what you need. I just know that looks like half the parking lot there that's now, and that's going back to even pre-COVID I don't know if that was utilized all the way. Am I accurate with that? I recall with a conversation with your father, I believe, of something similar to that. I just don't know if it stayed that way.
So we have a metric where we're always monitoring this because we have like type properties that are composed, maybe not all with technology, but similar office with a very specific type of composition of their workforce. There is a industry requirement when we're eliciting response from businesses that are of the scale or have very specific needs, and that is about 5 per thousand. And if I can't offer that in common, so none of that's exclusive, it's all in common. And one of the neat things is the orientation of these parking lots that allow people to kind of pattern differently across the campus. We truly haven't enjoyed a fully onboarded campus as of yet. we are actually concerned that the way that some of the, Alstom turned out to be a larger tenant than we had expected. Or if you were to ask me 2 years ago, I would have said we would have had a cluster of a lot of smaller entities in there. So what happened is some of those buildings became singularly campuses within, and it adjusted the way that pattern across the parking, or the use of the parking facilities. We feel right now that we're balanced. We also recognize that we have not activated this campus fully yet. And we also have amenities that haven't been touched, that haven't been open, which elongate that employees' use of the facility. You have to remember that I'm not just a builder anymore. I'm a retention and recruiting device for these companies. And that's why they came here, because at large, except for Alstom, many of these companies their employees are driving an extra 7, 8, 10, sometimes 15 minutes to get here than their prior workplace. And the reason that was accepted was because this has so much to offer them. The gym facilities alone, the conference facilities, the lifestyle, health and wellness, food provisions. All of our retailers have some type of activations. Before COVID, we ran 200 unique events at all of our properties on average. And I look forward to making up for some lost time here. So we feel that what's proposed is needed. I will tell you that as a line item and category, it's very expensive to institute these, and I wouldn't want to do that if I didn't have to. And we have a history of land banking incredible portions of ours. If there was an opportunity to do that, I would do that in an instant, especially with a lot of sensitivity around here. And I grew up on the Genesee River and enjoying the facilities around there. We own and operate Canandaigua sailboarding, and so in the campus right now are 100+ kayaks and canoes and paddle boards. I want these waters to be as clean as possible. We have an angling program we're gonna launch. We're working with the DC and Army Corps to try to improve the quality. It's not great fishing there, but it's still fun to get out. So I can promise you, any opportunity to reduce the amount of parking, that would happen naturally without request of the board.
Very good. Thank you. The only other comment that I have is based just on the parking lot lighting. What is proposed, if we can see a com check on that for the actual lighting and the photos. Okay, I saw some foot candles and such on there, but if you just hit it with a com check, you might be able to drop a light or two.
Yeah, we can certainly run a photometric plot for you guys and review that. Yep.
Good. Mr. Chairman, that's all that I have for the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Eckert. Chair will recognize Mr. List.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was out that way Saturday. I drove around the campus, and those buildings are really beautiful. I think you did a great job there. Is there a connecting, because I went in on the south entrance, and you can't connect, is there a connecting road?
Yeah, Heather, can
into
you bring back up the overall campus exhibit?
Because I was driving around there, I couldn't get.
There's only one. There's
I had
only
to
one
pull out
route.
I had to pull out back out on East River Road and go back in.
So the location is basically you gotta come down the front here. So you gotta make this turn, and then you can get up.
Okay. Okay. Minor issue. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. No, I look forward to it. It was I didn't even wake up the security guard. He was fast asleep in his car. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Chair will recognize Mr. Borkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
With this project, this was neat when you came here to begin with. Your father did an amazing little presentation for us. And I remember him very vividly saying how important architecture was to him, which is why he chose this. He also mentioned that this would be a legacy to him and to his family. So when we're talking about putting in 8 extra trees for things, I think we can pretty confidently trust you guys on what you're going to do, because you care about it probably even more than we do, and that's our job. So I'm not going to belabor that idea either. I think you have done an amazing job there, and it continues to get cooler. When your father came in, I actually remember talking to ownership of my place and thinking, why don't we go over there, because it was so impressive. So I just want to be on record saying that this is kind of what we're looking for anytime we're looking at these things. And to nitpick about 8 trees here and 8 trees there, I'm not going to do that. As far as the buffer that you're requesting, I have no issue with that whatsoever. So I'm good with that as well. And keep up the good work. This is a very cool place.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Borkowski. Chair will recognize Mrs. Brill.
Thank you. Fred, I too am going to mention your dad's presentation when he came in. I specifically remember him talking about how there was other builders that were vying to purchase the space, and some of them were looking to level the buildings. And your dad did research, and he introduced us to the architect that was from Europe that originally built these buildings. I don't know why I remember this, but I was so intrigued by it. And it was so important to him to maintain the architectural integrity that were built and the reason behind why that famous architect built these buildings. And I live out on that side of town, so it's really fun for me to drive through there and look at it. So this is going to be very different looking because it's new, right? But very, very modern and very architecturally beautiful. So share that, if you would, with your dad, that we appreciate all that.
Thank you.
And we remember that.
I promise. So it's Mies van der Rohe and Le Corbusier
Yes.
are the two inspiring architects.
Yes.
And then
French, right? Weren't they? Yeah, I remember
and then
that.
SOM out of Chicago, which back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, late 50s, 60s, and 70s, these guys were, this team they were incredibly sought after. And Kodak fortunately had the capital to engage them. And back then things were built for permanence. You know, the mindset was that this was going to be forever. And certainly with Kodak, times are different, but because we hold these projects and because this is our life, we can make sense of doing that same thing. So this proposed building was built with permanence in mind and built to be adaptable and nimble and allow for this to be healthy according to the expectations that he set early on. It is an incredible compliment. And I think the neat thing is it kind of shows technology following a natural path of evolution, because there'll be some things that exist in this building that'll outperform the prior four in its sophistication. Not too many, but certainly a couple of things that'll offer the tenants an opportunity to brag equally as their house there as they interface with the common elements of the other project. But he is very excited about this. We're very excited about this.
Excellent. Yeah, and we're lucky enough that he had the eye and the wherewithal to recognize that and want to maintain it and maintain the architectural integrity. So it's absolutely beautiful. So I had a couple comments and they have been addressed this evening. So thank you for that. Look forward to seeing the new building.
Thank you, Mrs. Brill. Chair will recognize Mr. Page.
Thank you. I had some comments, but they were all addressed. The only question I was going to ask is about the transitional buffer. I live over there that way, and I know the lay of the land. That's not an issue at all. So,
Well, let's do a poll right now as this has come up a little bit. So all in favor of granting it's basically a 10-foot variance to the buffer, right?
190.
Yeah. So all in favor of granting the 10-foot variance, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Okay, it's unanimous. So we are totally on board with the reduction of the buffer there. Was that all, Mr. Page? Did you have anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Mistrella, anything from your chair there?
My only question is, it indicates that there's a pending re-subdivision. Is that an administrative re-subdivision, or is that something that's going before the planning board?
Yep, that's an administrative subdivision application. We've already submitted that to the town staff for review.
And everything is, within code? There aren't any variances, I take it?
Nope, we're not requesting any variances with the subdivision.
Okay, so the board should condition an approval on a re-subdivision that does not require any variances. And the staff will take care of that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Martin?
I'm all set, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Okay, the chair will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve application 20004. And as our attorney said, conditional on the subdivision without variances.
Thank you.
Is that correct, Dan?
Yep. Mr. Burkowski, I second that.
Mrs. Brill, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the motion carries. Congratulations, gentlemen.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you. Good evening.
Mr. Chairman, if I might ask an off question to Mr. Rinaldi?
Yes.
The town has a local waterfront revitalization project that we're undertaking. It's a grant from the Department of State. I believe we've sent an email or correspondence to your father or someone in your organization in case you would want to be a stakeholder.
Okay.
Because it will come up all the way from Rush all the way up to RIT with that trail. And I believe interconnecting with some of your trails has been previously considered or communicated. Are you interested in having a liaison to that stakeholders board?
Absolutely.
Okay, then I'll send you an email and correspondence based off of that. So
We're very excited to have received the metal, the Corten cross bridge that connects the lodge hiking facilities in the waterfront to Riverwood proper is on grounds right now,
Yeah.
and will be installed in the next few weeks.
Oh, great.
So the walkability the connection features this year, we were so excited. We sponsor Bristol Mountain, and we had all these cross country and hiking trail facilities set up, and we didn't get to activate any of them. So to see some progress with the trail use is really exciting. So that's something that we would be very excited to participate
that's
in.
what I was thinking. Excuse me, I didn't want to speak out of turn. I was hoping that that's not out of turn for a meeting of this nature.
No, not at all. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's good to know.
Yeah, I'll get your contact from Mr. Krikos. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks.
And James, I forgot to say thanks for the comprehensive answers. We really like that. I
Yes.
usually, thanks. That it does.
Okay, next on the agenda, application number 21-002, Winton Relo. It's a new singular wireless PCS LLC for final site plan approval of a replacement monopole tower located at 3144 Winton Road South in an industrial zoned district. And who is on representing the applicant, please?
My name is Brenda Blask-Lewis. I'm with Centerline Communication. I'm working with AT&T on this project.
Did you say Brenda?
Yes.
Can you spell your last name for me, please?
Sure. B as in boy, L as in Larry, A as in Adam, S as in Sam, K as in Kimberly, -Lewis.
Last Lewis.
Blask with a K. Blask-Lewis.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
For me? Yeah. Hey, Brenda?
All set?
Yeah, maybe you could just turn your volume down a little bit. It's a little bit
Or just stand
distorted, yeah.
How's that?
Sounds good, yep.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay. What AT&T is proposing to do is construct a 100-foot monopole tower on a parcel where there's already an existing 73-foot monopole tower at 3144 Winton Road South. Purpose for the new pole is to replace the existing one, which has got structural issues. So they're just looking to continue working with the same landlord and relocate the tower onto the back part of the parking lot. And they're going to increase the height by another, I think it's 17 feet overall or 27 feet overall, 27 feet. And that's basically the gist of what they're planning to do. I mean, it will entail they're going to move the equipment outside. Right now, the equipment is inside one of the offices in the building on the property. So that will all be contained in one location inside a fenced-in compound right near the tower itself. The tower will be built to accommodate an additional carrier or possibly two carriers, depending on what their height requirements are. And that's pretty much sums up the entire project, I guess. There's really not much to it.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, the chair will recognize Mr. List.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have really nothing. I went out there, I drove out there Saturday, I looked at the site. It looks pretty cut and dry, and I have no issues.
Okay.
Thank you, Liz. Chair will recognize Mr. Borkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My only concern, which is usually my concern, are the neighbors, where you're putting that farther back. What's the road here? Yeah, Mannerdale. Have you spoken to any of those people that are going to be looking at a 100-foot pole out their back window?
I have not. We just, there's already a tower there, so it's going to stay on the same parcel. It's just being relocated to another spot. We had thought about, dropping the existing tower and putting another one in the same location, but there's just not enough space, and the landlord really wasn't going to be too keen on us taking, a bigger footprint right next to the building. So my understanding that tower has been there for a while, and it's just structurally it's just not sound. So that
Mr. Bukowski, can I interrupt for a minute?
Yeah, absolutely.
We did send out a notice for the closest neighbors, to let them know that, we were having a meeting tonight to discuss this, and we didn't hear anything from either of those 4 neighbors.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think neighbors there are kind of used to the more industrial feel there, but you are moving the poles from basically the furthest point from them to the nearest point to them.
Yeah.
But honestly, if they're not here, then maybe it's possible the rental property. I don't know, but I just wanted to make sure we kind of did our due diligence. We as a town did. That was my only concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Borkowski. Chair will recognize Mrs. Brill.
Thank you. With the additional 25 feet requiring a setback, is it an additional setback that we need approval on?
Yeah, so typically in our town code, it says that you take the tower, if you're up against residential, you take the tower height, which in this case, I believe is 100 feet, and then you
Yes.
add an additional 25 feet. So you either have to do one of 3 things. One is, of course, get a variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals. Number 2 would be to move the tower so it's away from that 125 feet, so it would have to go a little bit further north. Or 3, you would have to prove that if the tower does collapse, then it's not going to impact the adjacent residences.
Yes, I've given your comments to our A&E firm that did prepare the drawings, and we're discussing moving the tower another 19 feet to the north. I don't think that will be a problem.
Sorry, I'm also the secretary here, so I gotta take notes.
Okay.
19 feet,
Yes, yep.
thank you. And what color is the pole itself going to be?
If the board has a preference, generally it's just, steel, nothing shiny.
Well,
But
I remember having different individuals come before us, and it was interesting how different colors are presented based on the surroundings. So
Yeah.
I know in neighboring town, I've seen them use like pine trees to kind of camouflage the towers. So it kind of looks like a fake pine tree. And I recall someone coming to us once and they said the lighter the color of the tower, because it blends in.
Yes, yep.
It's mostly cloudy type of thing.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
so-
a light gray matte finish would be my preference.
I think if you made it a monopine in that location, it would stick out like a sore thumb. I think if you just went with a lighter shade of gray, because I worked with another village that had the same concern, and it doesn't reflect, it's not like brash and in your face all the time. So I think something muted would be probably what you're looking for.
Agreed.
And we'll put a note to that effect on the drawing so that the general contractor knows that it's, we're looking for a specific color, shade.
Thank you so much. That's all I have.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mrs. Brill. Chair will recognize Mr. Page.
Thank you. The only concern I had was the fall zone, the drop zone of the tower, and it seems to be addressed. You said you're going to move it so that it's 125?
Yes, we're gonna try to move that 19 feet to the north so that we meet the setback.
I'm all set.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Page. Shall we recognize Mr. McIntyre?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
That was my question also, that you put the fall zone on the prints.
Yep.
And also, I saw the specs on there's a generator associated with this project.
Diesel.
I saw the specs on it, electricity-wise. I didn't see anything on its sound level. What decibel, when it's running, what kind of decibels are we talking about?
I know that that is not very loud, but I can get you some specific information on that. I believe we do have cut sheets that give that information, so I can provide that to the board if that's okay, because I don't have it right with me. I'd have to go digging, and I don't want to do that to you. But I
possibly some screening or something to try to mute that sound if it is kind of extraordinarily loud, because more than likely, if this generator is going to be running, it's going to be running in the middle of the night for a power outage of some kind.
Okay. I think I saw in the code that you want new screening anyways around the fenced-in area. So that would definitely muffle any. I would think it would muffle some sound.
Okay. I'm all set, Mr. Chairman.
Good. Thank you, Mr. McIntyre. Mr. Eckert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, so Mr. McIntyre iterated my comments the same. I thought that for most of these cell towers, the generator was actually in an enclosure. And I was interested to see this one was exposed.
Yeah, most of the, I think even Verizon does it this way, where they do a walk-in shelter, and then the 20 kilowatt diesel generator kind of sits on the same platform with the walk-in cabinet. Yeah, they're not usually enclosed, but they're generally not that loud. I've been around quite a few of them, and you'd have to stand quite a ways. You can stand up close to it. It's not that loud. The further you get away, the quieter it gets. So I don't think that noise will be an issue, but I'll get you some more specific information so you can see exactly what the output is.
Great, thank you. One comment I had on the plans was regarding, I see that new power and comm lines are coming from the pole on the backyards of Matterdale to feed this. Is there a secondary that has to go to the building from the power, or is it just, is this pole separate from the building altogether?
It's separate. It sits on the backside of the lot, and I'll be doing a power walk with National Grid. I think National Grid out that way. But I usually work with the utility company to determine exactly the path, and we'll add that information to the construction drawings. But when I was at the initial site visit, we were looking at a utility pole that was on the back side of the lot, kind of if you're facing where the utility pole is going to be and towards the back of the parking lot, be to the right. And they would take that power underground and right to the fenced compound.
So it doesn't need to turn back to the building from that pole?
No, it'll come right off of it.
It's okay, it's individual
Yeah,
from.
they would set a meter back there. So AT&T would have their own meter.
So the singular, or I guess I'm maybe getting this confused too, because isn't there like a singular wireless in the building? But that's just a cell phone company. That's completely separate from the cell tower that's going in.
Yeah, I mean, initially when that tower was built, when it was New Singular, and that was their hub, that was their main.
Okay.
Since moved from there, and that tower just has always stayed. So all the equipment and everything is right now is inside the building. So everything now is just going to be kind of concentrated in that fenced-in compound in the back of the lot.
So you're just utilizing the property for a cell tower access location. That's
yes. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So it's no longer the hub for the cell.
No, it's just another site. They like that site. They like that area. It provides good coverage.
Okay. Then the only other comment I had, which may have been addressed by engineering, is that the water main is not an easement to the town of Henrietta. It's Monroe County Water Authority.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That is not. We're not in that. I know where the easement is, and we'll show that on the survey. But we avoid the easement. We don't encroach on it at all.
Yeah, for the water main, you will be crossing from the pole. The new power and the telecom looked like it crossed the water main to get to the new pole. So that's why I was making the comment that the water main is shown as the town of Henrietta, which hasn't, it was turned over to the Water Authority back in the 70s.
All right, then I'll make a note of that so that I can discuss that with our surveyor when we go out there. Because I'll be going out again with A&E, and like I said, I'll meet with the utility company. We'll locate all those easements and try to avoid them as best we can. And if we can't, then we'll address them.
Sounds good. I just wanted to make sure that when you're crossing it, you just didn't want to call us. You want to call them.
Okay.
So that's all the comments and questions I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Eckert. Now, before we go to seeker, Mr. Martin, anything from you, sir?
No, I'm all set, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Mr. Mistrella?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, a few questions. First of all, for Mr. Martin, I assume that technically this has all been reviewed by staff to assure compliance other than the setback, which I'll address in a second.
Yeah,
with
there's certain, yeah.
cell code provisions of the town code.
So there were some issues in our letters or items in our letters, Mr. Mistrella, that the applicant has to address. You know, like, for example, we want to see a structural analysis report. There's certain bonds or, let's see, a tower removal certified bond will be required. You know, we'll want to see a grid or ground map of the applicant's existing telecommunications facility sites. I mean, we talked about the finish of the building. Yeah, so if the applicant looks in our town code, looks through the, my review letter, those items are outlined there.
As far as the removal of the existing tower, what's the proposed schedule on that?
Once the new tower is up and they have it on air, then they will decommission the old tower and they'll take that one down. I won't know the exact schedule of that until we get closer to handing this project off to construction. Then we can work with the general contractor and get a time schedule, like a timetable. We'd also have to know when AT&T is going to put this on air, which I believe I can get some of that information from my project manager. I believe that AT&T has it on a spreadsheet, so they do have a timeline when they want to put these towers on the air, because they would like to have that one up and functioning before they decommission the existing one.
Can you give us an outside frame on from, how long after the new tower becomes functional?
I can, I don't want to give you say 60 days because I don't know, but I can talk with the construction engineers and find out exactly how long it would take once the new tower is turned on. I wouldn't think it would be, more than 30 to 60 days, but I don't want to commit them to that if that's not the case. So I'd like to, pick their brain a little bit and get you, closer to an exact time frame.
So if the board required it within 6 months, and if you didn't have it done, you'd have to come back.
Okay.
That would be acceptable?
Yeah, I think that would be acceptable.
The location is shown on the existing site plan is not really where it's going to be. You're going to guarantee 100 setback from the residential. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm actually working with the architectural engineer right now. I gave them a list from the comments that I received, the things that apply to the drawings. I've already been in touch with them and they're working on them right now. So they should be, I would imagine we'll have them sometime next week, and I can provide revised copies to the board to review so they can see the setbacks and all the additional notes that we're adding to the drawings for the comment.
To the chairman, if the board's going to approve this evening, I would at least, condition it upon the 130-foot setback, as that is the option that the applicant has chosen, so that the existing site plan isn't exactly accurate. General compliance with the cell tower provisions of the town code as administered through the engineering department.
Okay, very good.
Can you tell me what the amount of the removal bond is so that I can get that under, I can start that process as well?
Mr. Martin might be able to address that. I'm not sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Brenda, I can get you that information after the meeting. I don't have it with me right now, but we can certainly look.
Okay, that works for me.
Okay, well, very good. Move into seeker. Seeker review indicates the action under consideration is an unlisted action as per section 617.7C1XI. The Henrietta Planning Board, as lead agency, has determined that the proposed action described below will not have a significant effect on the environment and that a draft environmental impact statement will not be required. The action under consideration is a site plan application by New Singular Wireless PCS LLC. It is an unlisted action and will not require a conditioned negative declaration. The purpose of this application is for final site plan approval of a replacement monopole tower located at 3144 Winton Road South in an industrial zoned district. All relevant areas of environmental concern were identified. Evaluation and examination were carefully made in relation of the existing conditions versus the proposed site improvements. It has been determined that there will be no adverse environmental effect as a result of the proposed action. I, James Grunert, therefore make the motion that we make a negative declaration and that the chairman be authorized to sign the statement of environmental significance. Do I have a sufficient second, please?
Second?
Mrs. Brill, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. We have seeker, and the chair will entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion under conditional approval that the original monopole must be removed within 6 months after original monopole has been decommissioned. General provisions regarding the cell tower are followed, and moving the monopole 19 feet to the north to meet the setback. And Dan, what did you say that footage was?
130 feet.
130?
Yep.
130.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Brill. Do I have a sufficient second, please?
Mr. Chairman, are we obligated to at least check the Zoom meeting to see if anybody from the public is to speak on the behalf, or is that an obligation for this?
No.
Isn't a public hearing.
It's not a public hearing, so I didn't know what the letters stated, if they were able to Zoom in.
They can Zoom. So again, it's Chris Martin, Director of Engineering and Planning. Typically for workshop sessions, the applicants can certainly listen, but it is not a public hearing. However, we do encourage applicant or residents or whoever's listening to provide us with written comments that we can share with the planning board.
Okay, thank you. Then, Mr. Chairman, I'll second that motion.
Mr. Record, thank you very much. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the motion carries. Congratulations, Brenda.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yep, you're welcome.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Bye.
Okay, next on the agenda, application number 21-003, Marlwood Partners LLC for final site plan approval of an outdoor truck parking area for company-owned trucks located adjacent to 39 Commerce Drive in a commercial B1 zoned district with a mixed-use redevelopment area overlay. Who's here representing the applicant, please?
It's Mina Amari. Good evening, everybody. I'm representing Marlwood Partners LLC.
Okay, can I have you spell your name for me, please?
Mina, last name AHMADI.
Imadi, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mina, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. So as we already submitted the site plan, I'm planning to, on the west side of the property, make it used to be a parking lot before, when there was existing factory before it got burned down. Now we want to restate that the parking lot and park our company-owned trucks only. And just for the safety reason, currently we're parking them at the truck stop and some other places. And we were, one of my trucks were vandalized. So that's why I purchased this property to use it as a parking for my own trucks only. No any other trucks, just for my own company. At the conversation board meeting, I was told to submit a revised site plan by indicating at least planting 8 trees and showing the drainage. And I did that, submitted this morning to Jennifer.
Okay. Are you all set, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, open it up to the board. I'll start with Mr. McIntyre.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
Mina, the biggest issue I've seen with this is the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation has all sorts of requirements for permits and other restrictions on this site. Can you discuss or let us know how you're making out with those particular aspects?
I believe that the only restriction is from the New York State Department of Environmental, DEC, and I've already submitted the change of use form to them that we would like to use it as a parking, and they accepted the change of use. So that's the only restriction we have, and I already took care of it.
They're suggesting this is still an archaeologically sensitive area, and they want to have you contact the office to determine if there's any archaeological significance to the site. Has that been done?
No, so I haven't, I wasn't, to be honest, I didn't know that I was supposed to do that. And I can do that tomorrow first thing in the morning.
I'm looking at the memo from New York State Department of Environmental Conservation dated March 10th. It was on page 2. They also talk about protecting the monitoring wells that are on the site. How are you planning on doing that?
There's only 2 monitoring wells on the parking area where we're planning to park. And they all are within the 20, one is by the fence, which won't interfere with the parking our trucks. And another one is also within the 20 feet between the fence and the parking area. And I've also requested the DEC, Brianna Sharf, she handles our property case, and I've requested her if they allow us to ground level that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, they allowed you to what?
Ground level those monitoring wells. There's the only 2, even though they're not on, they won't get on my way, but I still requested her if they allow us to ground level it. So it's above the ground, so make it ground level and put a cap for them to continue monitoring.
You're saying to make the well level and then cap it? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay. So Chris, is that?
Yeah, so again, it's Chris Martin, Director of Engineering and Planning. Yeah, there are several wells that will be within the new truck parking area. So the applicant will have to adjust the height of those and put a cap on it so that the pipes don't stick up out of the ground so they can hit them.
Okay.
So we'll work with the applicant. We'll probably want to see a detail or something of how that's going to be accomplished.
What happens if they run over the tops of the wells?
What's that, Steve?
What happens when they run over the wells? Run over the caps of the
You know,
wells?
I would say think of it like a clean out.
Yeah.
In that sense.
Like a mini manhole type thing?
Right. So you'd have like a little casting on the top so that you can run over it. Probably what we would recommend is to put like a little square of either concrete or asphalt over it so that if it gets plowed, it doesn't get hit.
So the weight of the tire won't transfer down to the
No,
base of
it
the-
shouldn't. And again, what I'm envisioning is like is a sanitary clean out or a storm clean out.
Okay, you'll be checking these and inspecting them to make sure that all the ones that they could possibly run over will be protected?
Yeah, I think there's only a handful that are going to be within the truck parking area or in the pavement area. There's some certainly near the building, which is more where they're located. But there are a couple strays here and there that they'll have to protect.
Okay. Let's see here. I think I'll pass it along for now, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. McIntyre. Chair will recognize Mr. Page.
Thank you. Steve took care of the DEC part. The comment number 6 is that the width and location of the driveway off of Commerce Drive should be discussed. The width of the driveway should not exceed 50 feet. I looked at that diagram 25 times and I couldn't tell what the cut was. Is it bigger than 50 feet? It's kind of confusing because there's an existing driveway there right now. Okay. And so there's a dimension of 30 feet from the property line, and then there's another 60 feet. So certainly we would want to see a revised drawing that would reflect what exactly you're doing. Are you going to close the existing driveway? Or are you just going to modify it? So I think there's just some additional information that we're going to have to see to make sure that it doesn't exceed that 50 feet. Okay. Unless the applicant wants to get a variance to the zoning board of appeals, but I think we could probably make that under 50 feet work. Okay, and Chris, did you recommend that the entranceway be paved at least? Yeah, so in the right of way? Yeah, so per town standards, anything within the town right of way, because Commerce Drive is a town road, it'll have to be paved up until the right of way line. I just want to make sure that they understood that. Nina, is there any landscaping or more importantly, any lighting plan for this parking lot?
There is an existing pole already at the property. Or I believe maybe the bulbs died or burned off, and we can add, if Town of Henrietta suggests that we need to add more poles to the property, we can do that. But there is some poles that already exist. It just needed new lighting.
Okay. Are you comfortable with that, Chris? Well, you'll check the, well, actually, lighting would be for security for the trucks. Yeah, if it's for lighting, certainly you'd have to show the locations on the plans and would need a catalog or lighting diagram to see what the input would be. Certainly, we're okay with that, but we would need to see, number one, where they're located and, what the light distribution is. As far as landscaping, I believe the Conservation Board had some concerns and they wanted to see some additional landscaping on the site. So obviously, we would want to see that as well. Okay. And I know that you addressed those comments from the Conservation Board and from your sheet before you would sign off. Is there any concern from the engineering department around the runoff of oil, fuel, anything into the system? Yeah. Again, Chris Martin, Director of Engineering and Planning. I think we want to see some type of stormwater management facility or some type of green infrastructure at the low point that, we could see if anything, did go into there, it would be, clean until it goes into the storm sewer system. So again, if it's along the west property line or maybe somewhere else on the site, we can certainly work with your engineer on that to come up with a good place for that. Thank you. I thought that was important. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Page. Chair will recognize Mrs. Brill.
Mr. Page, you may have mentioned this, but I was taking a previous note. Regarding number 5, if the property is to be paved in the future, the type and thickness of the asphalt should be provided. Is that what you had asked?
No, I was talking about the entranceway, but that's an excellent point that you bring up. I just didn't bring that up.
Can you advise?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, we would like to pave it in the future, but that's very costly, so I don't think that's going to be anytime soon. But before doing so, I will provide our Town of Henrietta and the DEC with all the information, the thickness of the pavement, and all the material, and the location we would like to do it. But as of now, it's not in any new future plan.
Okay, so asphalt would not be an option because of the expense. Just want to make sure I understood you correctly.
Right.
And you will be addressing the thickness of like the stone surface or whatever. Is that what you're indicating? Okay. And
yeah, and as you can see by the entrance of the property, it is asphalt. The only area that has a crushed stone is the parking area. So the parking area will put the asphalt and pave it, in the future.
it will be.
Yes.
So is that where we need to address the thickness of the asphalt then?
Yeah, so again, it's Chris Martin, Director of Engineering and Planning. So in the future, if the parking lot is paved, then you'll have to come back to at least the engineering department unless you want to come back to the planning board. Obviously, we'd want to address, water quality issues again, and things of that nature. But we just want to be notified when you do that and just take another look at the plans to make sure that's okay.
Yes. We'll do that.
Thank you. Will a gate be provided to the entrance to the parking lot for security reasons?
Sorry, gate?
Some type of a gate, protective barrier?
There's already a gate, entrance gate on Commerce Drive.
It's not on the plan, so
The facility is gated now, correct?
Yes,
Do you envision still having a gate there?
additional gate? No.
no, not an additional. Do you envision maintaining? There was none on the site plan as indicated in number 7. So we're just trying to confirm if that will be remaining.
Yeah, will the gate remain?
Right where on the Commerce Drive, on the site plan, there is a comment that my architect added, says sliding rule entry gate with the remote control. So I thought that would address the question.
With remote control. Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mrs. Brill. Chair will recognize Mr. Borkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
I don't have many questions per se. But that being said, I think that there's still a lot of questions. It seems like there's a lot of balls in the air with this. We got environmental considerations, remediation, archaeological, hazardous waste. What we're doing about, asphalt, concrete. At first looking at this, and it just seems like it's a place to park stuff. I'm kind of fine with it. On the other side, it seems like for something so simple, this doesn't seem very simple to me. So I'm not sure how I feel about it. That's really just a comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Borkowski. Mr. List.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no concerns.
Thank you. Chair will recognize Mr. Eckert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
I think we've addressed a lot of the same concerns. I have some of the same comments as Mr. Borkowski. This project already started off with a DEC permit, but quickly changed from what was being done, what was accepted in the permit to what was being done on site. So we placed a stop work order on the project to start to get them through into this process. Am I correct now that there are tractor trailers already parking on the property?
There was when we started, but after you told us to stop the work, we stopped everything.
You stopped the work. Are there tractor trailers parked on the property?
No, not after you asked us to stop it.
Okay, so Friday afternoon in my site visit, there were 2 tractor trailers parked on site. There's already a job trailer and 2 campers. There's disturbance into the property that says do not disturb.
The camper was there before when you asked us to stop. But about the other trailer, I will ask my husband how that came there.
Yeah, there's 2.
Okay.
There's 2 tractor trailers new since we've asked you to stop. There's disturbance on the property that says do not disturb by the DEC.
Disturbance, is it, you mean the tractor trailer?
No, there was stone that was added to the left or to the north side of this, or east side of the property off the entrance.
That was there. When we brought the stones were brought there, and since then, there's no additional stones were brought to the, or we ordered anything like that. Maybe the tractor and trailer.
There's no stone shown on the plan in that area, and there's stone that's the same consistency of what you put down in the rest of the parking lot in that area. When I was out there, when I saw that, that's what I was also questioning, is where all the extra work was going on from.
The piles of crushed stone, right?
Yes, the 2-inch crusher run that was placed on the entire west side of this property, which was not part of the permit from the DEC.
Right.
that was placed. So that's why we stopped the project and asked you to come into the town to talk to us about what you were doing. There's also a large amount of debris on the south side of the property. The property was cleaned per the DEC permit. That was the allowable use or the allowable work that was to be done. But all that material was pushed along the south side and just stored there. That it needs to be shown to be removed and cleaned up. And I see the other trees that are either proposed or that ones that are existing that are already there that are to remain. I'm not sure exactly from the plan which ones are proposed and which ones are existing. So yes, I second Mr. Burkowski's thoughts that this seems like a very nice little reuse to a little bit of a parking space for a property that hasn't been doing anything, but yet we seem to have a lot of issues, a lot of concerns, and more questions sometimes than answers to some of the stuff we seem to be going through here. And every time we get a little bit further, something else occurs or something else happens. So I know I've talked to the DEC because the work that was being done out there wasn't approved by their permit. They were also they weren't exactly clear with us. They didn't copy us in on the permit that they had authorized to you. So we had to also communicate with them on what was being done. So those are basically my comments to site plan. I know we got a new copy today. I had a chance to quickly glance at it, but I didn't really have a chance to go over it in full detail, to be honest. So I know this plan doesn't really, I guess, reflect what we got this morning.
Right. Well, and also we have, markups from the original site plans that came in that we can give you after the meeting, Mina. And also, to make sure that some of our comments are addressed. So I think what I'd like to do is, certainly after the meeting, maybe we can set up a meeting with yourself, your architect, and just kind of go over everything. And then, get all on the same page so we can make this a nice, clean process.
So they own both properties,
That's correct.
but we're only allowing work on the one, right?
I think they're only allowed to work on
Only
one per
allowed to work on the
DEC.
one. So I guess what I would also like to see, my question is, where is that property line? Where's that delineation? Because it's hard to tell when, because it was, in a sense, one acting property with a building and a parking lot. So I'm confused as to where exactly they're allowed to work.
Yeah, and that's something that we could certainly straighten out when we, have a meeting.
Okay.
So let me jump in. Would it make sense for us to table this application this evening?
Here's what I'm thinking, Mr. Chairman, and again, I don't want to push the board one way or the other. Overall, it is a simple project, as Mr. Polkowski explained. It's, it is a parking lot. They've been put on hold, so to speak, since probably November. I'd like to, now with the warmer weather coming, I'd like to get the site up to par, so to speak. So my recommendation would be is to maybe give conditional site plan approval with the understanding that, of course, they have to address all staff comments. They still have to obtain a special use permit from the town board, which they're hoping to do next Wednesday. They're on the docket. But with the additional condition that they have to either get a permit from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation or some type of letter from them saying that it's okay to park tractor trailers on the site. And certainly we would have to have all those in place before we would sign off on the drawings.
In addition to the lighting diagram and the other things you've asked.
Correct. Any landscaping, things of those natures, yes, we would want to, like any traditional site plan, we would want to see all those items addressed. And there's a lot of items, but you're right, at the end of the day, it's still a gravel parking lot. So I would like to get the applicant moving forward on this.
Okay. Well, should we also add in there that they should contact the OPRHP for the archaeological.
Formerly known as SHPO.
SHPO. What is it?
Formerly known as the SHPO office.
Okay, yeah, whatever, I don't know, but, that was recommended, Mina, on page 2 from the DEC letter, so, okay, well, I can go ahead and read seeker, and then we can.
Mr. Chairman, I'm comfortable with those contingencies that Mr. Martin discussed.
With what? The
contingencies that he discussed.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, there's 4 of them here, right? So, okay, well, let me read seeker, and then we can go into a motion.
I'd like to interject.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Mistrali, thank you, yes.
So, this application, I understand the dynamic. I understand the applicant's desire to start using the property for what they purchased for. By the same token, obviously, this application is not ripe for any type of blanket approval. I would suggest that the condition also include that the applicant be required to return to the planning board to demonstrate compliance with the conditions of the engineering department, perhaps 90 days down the road, where the weather is cleared, they can get done what they have to get done. But there's way too many balls in the air for what it is they are, for where they're at. I understand the dynamic. It's an unusual requirement. And so I guess I'm asking the applicant if, in exchange for a conditional approval this evening, subject to those conditions, they agree to come back before, they offer and agree to come back before the planning board in approximately 90 days to demonstrate compliance with what is required of them.
Thank you, Mr. Mastrella. Mina, is that something you'd be amenable to?
Yes, I can do that.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I
Because
might.
I'm sorry?
The other thing is, as far as seeker goes, it has, I assume that any interested agency has responded. I know DEC has,
Yes.
with no objection to us being lead agency, correct?
Yeah, and I can answer that question. Again, it's Chris Meyer, Director of Engineering and Planning. Yes, there were two involved agencies for this project. One was the town board and the other one was New York State DEC. And both of those are satisfied with the planning board being the lead agent. And we did get all the paperwork back for that because it is under the 30-day threshold. But
Yeah.
we did
So
get
that's good.
from both agencies.
That's good. And to the applicant, you should thank the town engineering department for expediting that. They did that for you. They went out of their way. So obviously there's a condition also of the special use permit being granted, which couldn't be granted until seeker was done. That's certainly not the applicant's fault whatsoever.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mastrella.
Thank you.
Mr. Martin, anything?
No, I'm all set,
Finally,
Mr. Chairman.
okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Seeker review indicates the action under consideration is an unlisted action as per section 617.7C1 VIII. The Henrietta Planning Board, as lead agency, has determined that the proposed action described below will not have a significant effect on the environment and that a draft environmental impact statement will not be required. The action under consideration is a site plan application by Marlwood Partners LLC. It is an unlisted action and will not require a conditioned negative declaration. The purpose of this application is for final site plan approval of an outdoor truck parking area for company-owned trucks located adjacent to 39 Commerce Drive in a commercial B1 zoned district with mixed-use redevelopment area overlay. All relevant areas of environmental concern were identified. Evaluation and examination were carefully made in relation of the existing conditions versus the proposed site improvements. It has been determined that there will be no adverse environmental effect as a result of the proposed action. I, James Gruner, therefore make the motion that we make a negative declaration and that the chairman be authorized to sign the statement of environmental significance. Do I have a sufficient second?
Second.
Mr. McIntyre, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The opinion of the chair, the motion carries. Thank you. And the chair will entertain a motion on the application itself.
Mr. Gruner, I would like to review the conditional site plan approval notes I have.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
believe I'm missing one, so if you could follow along with me there, please.
Yep.
Special use permit, based on getting the special use permit from the town board, getting a permit or letter from the DEC indicating that it is in fact okay to park on the property, that you will reach out to the appropriate agency regarding the archaeological concerns. You'd be required to show compliance to the planning board that all outstanding issues have been followed up on within 90 days. And I had one more, and I went on to write the third bullet. So if you happen to know what that is.
Well, I gotta be honest, I thought you.
I think one of them was that they had to adhere to all town comments.
Right, all staff comments. have to
And
be
a
addressed.
letter, I wrote letter to park trucks. That was from the DEC. Yes, okay. And then
Return in 90 days.
Got it?
return in 90 days.
Got it?
Archaeological census.
You had that?
Okay, got them.
I
Thank
think
you.
that's it. Yep. So are you officially making the motion, Mrs. Brill, with those conditions?
I can with those conditions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have a second? Second. Is that Mr. List?
Yes,
Yes, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Mr. Borkowski?
Yes, and I
Yes,
just
thank you.
want to go on record for saying I don't like to hold up businesses over a parking lot. We're all about businesses doing business, but there's just too many balls in the air on this to make me feel comfortable.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Borkowski. Okay, in the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The motion carries. Thank you very much. Mina, you're all set, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for your time and your help.
You're welcome.
Have a good evening.
Months.
Bye.
Anybody need a break? A few minutes. We've got a few things left to do. They hopefully won't take too long, but we can take a break if anybody feels like they need it. We're good? Okay. Next item on the application, next item on the agenda is application number 21-004. It's our intent to be lead agency for Clay Road North, a proposed manufacturing facility for final site plan approval of a 120,000 square foot building located on Clay Road in an industrial zone district. The chair will make a motion of our intent to be lead agency, and I'll take a sufficient second.
Second.
Mr. Page, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The motion carries. We will be lead agency for application 21-004. And now we have 3 discussion items.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, just got a quick question from Mr. Martin on that one.
Sure.
Chris, is that property part of the T-Mobile site? Was it already secret under T-Mobile?
So T-Mobile, it's actually a separate lot.
It is
These 2 parcels were subdivided into 3 parcels a long time ago. The T-Mobile site
Was south.
is still to the south of this.
Okay.
So this is kind of behind where the Amazon facility is.
Right, but we haven't secret this then with T-Mobile already, just
No,
that's coming in for a separate application.
Yeah, we've never seen this application before.
Okay.
We've seen kind of concepts when it came from the industrial side, but nothing, this
Well, I thought it
detailed.
was disturbed with the T-Mobile site. That's just why I was, and I could be wrong. It's been.
Well, it
over
wouldn't
years, so-
surprise me if when they were doing the T-Mobile site, when they were doing some of the grading for that they may have ventured onto this site as
Yeah,
well.
and that's okay. Disturbance was stabilized. It's just, I wasn't sure if it was part of that site. So.
Right. This is another rush project that they're hoping to get built this summer.
Yeah, yes.
Very good. Okay, so first discussion item is Caliber Collision. We're to discuss the proposed building elevations for a property located at 40 J. Scuddy Boulevard.
So this actually, I can give you a little input on this one. Again, it's Chris Martin, Director of Engineering and Planning. So this is just directly north of Wendy's, I believe. And was it the stereo shop?
Yes, used to be Dave's or.
Oh, that's where, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So they did come in for a special use permit from the town board. And I believe they got that the last town board meeting. But they are changing the color of the building slightly. They're refurbishing it, putting some obviously some new signage in and things like that. So as part of that upgrade, we wanted to share with the planning board to see if you had any comments or concerns.
Yeah, looks good to me.
Yeah, another reuse of a site that's been sitting dormant. I think it's great.
How long has Dave's been out of there?
I don't know how long they've been out.
Yeah.
I don't.
I would say about 2 years.
What was it again?
Is that right?
What was
Was it Stereo Shop or
Oh,
Dave's Stereo?
Dave Stereo, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Stereo
bought
Shop
my-
back when I was in high school. I
I
don't know.
bought my kick-in 4-foot tall Technique sound system from the Stereo Shop way back in the day. Yeah.
Big old Pioneer speakers back in the day.
Yeah, Chris, I
Every
personally
dorm
don't
room
think we
had
have to
them,
worry
right?
about that area at all.
Okay, yeah, I mean, it's a little bit off the beaten path.
Yep.
You can still see it from Jefferson Road, but,
It'd
you
be
know,
a great
obviously
clean-
they're making some improvements to the
Yep.
site and like
Yeah.
I said, we just wanted to kind of share with the board.
Yep, thank you. Looks
This is
good.
a national chain too, I think.
Caliber is?
Yeah.
Are they?
I
Okay.
believe it's a national chain or if not, at least regional.
Really?
Yeah. they're
We
just-
do have the applicants online, guys, if you want to speak to them.
Oh,
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi there, I'm Brett Flory, the architect, and yeah, they are a national chain. They're the world's largest collision repair center. They have over 1,200 locations,
Really?
and they're kind of the industry leader in that field. So
Their
they,
first shop in Rochester then?
yeah, I think that this is the first new one. I think they may have one other one that was an acquisition, but this is the first new one.
Okay.
But they're all over from California to New York, so we're doing them all. I've been working with them for the last 8 years.
Forgive me, would you tell me your name again? I'm sorry.
Brett, B-R-E-T, Flory, F-L-O-R-Y.
And you're from
Cross Architects.
Cross Architects. Thank you.
Mhm.
anything you want to add to my presentation?
That's a good presentation. We're gonna just make the building look as close to new as we can. It's a concrete block building with the ephes kind of front facade. So we're gonna paint all the block. These are Caliber's colors, sort of the tan and black. And then we're gonna reseal the parking lot, and update the landscaping. So it'll look like a new business there.
I think it looks good.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the board? Or Mr. Martin?
Nope.
No. Brett, I think we're good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry to keep you up so late for such a short,
No
short
problem.
presentation.
Thank you.
It's an hour earlier.
Oh, that's at the end.
Yeah, he's in Plano, Texas. Well, that's what his name says, but I don't know.
It is.
Yeah, they have 1,100 locations.
I never heard of them before.
I think they're good. for
This
the
one's
little shop.
interesting.
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, this is going through the town board right now.
Okay,
Looks like we
next
have
item.
Ryan- Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
No, go ahead, Jim. I'm sorry.
Yep, thank you. Discussion item, Marketplace Senior Apartments. Planning Board to discuss the proposed construction of senior housing within the Marketplace Mall property located at 1100 and 1200 Miracle Mile Drive in a commercial B1 zoned district with a mixed-use redevelopment area overlay. And Ryan, are you here representing the applicant or the project?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you. Go ahead. The floor is
Perfect.
yours.
Sure. Heather, could you please start by showing the mixed-use development exhibit?
Is that the one that's dated 3/12/21?
Yes.
Okay, 1 second.
Okay, perfect. Good evening, Ryan Destro from BME Associates. Here online tonight with me is Ryan Brandt from Rochester Cornerstone Group, Eric Wright from the Marketplace Wilmerite, and Peter Vars from BME Associates is also online. The Marketplace Senior Apartments proposal is for a 4-story, approximately 151,650 square foot 150 unit residential apartment senior housing structure as part of a mixed-use development area at the Marketplace Mall. And the structure has an overall proposed height of less than 50 feet. If you're looking at the exhibit, the Marketplace Senior Apartments project is in the lower left portion of the Marketplace Mall property. It's the L-shaped building. Correct. For this project, 2 special permits are required and have been submitted to the town board. The first special permit application is to allow a mixed-use development at the Marketplace Mall within the mixed-use redevelopment area MURA overlay district. That will promote the long-term viability of the Marketplace Mall by allowing a mixture of uses, some of which are not currently permitted under the underlying zoning district. As mentioned, the existing zoning for the Marketplace Mall is commercial B1. That is the underlying zoning district. However, there's also the mixed-use redevelopment area, MURA, which is the overlay district. The second special use permit application that was submitted to the town board is to allow the Marketplace Senior Apartments, the senior housing component project itself. The area of application is a proposed 3.6 acre lease parcel area. It's located to the west of the Sportsman's Warehouse, which is directly in the southern portion of the exhibit. And then it's located to the south of Miracle Mile Drive, and it's in the location of the former Marketplace Mall movie theater. And you can, if you could please pull up the concept site plan exhibit next. Thank you. Here's the conceptual site plan for reference. The site amenities include approximately 95 parking spaces are proposed within the leased parcel area on the west side of the L-shaped building. Concrete sidewalks for pedestrian circulation are proposed both on-site interior to the project, as well as a new sidewalk connection to the existing Marketplace Mall sidewalk system to the east. Proposed new landscaping and new lawn areas will also be introduced on site, as well as new interior site lighting. The access to the site will be provided via a connection off of Miracle Mile Drive on the northwestern corner, and then also through the existing paved parking area to the east at the southwest or southeastern corner of the building. The site has, it includes 2 aerial apparatus access roads are provided, one being the existing Miracle Mile Drive along the north side of the building, and then also on the east face of the proposed structure via the existing parking lot drive aisle. An on-site dumpster enclosure is also proposed. With respect to site utilities, the existing public sanitary, sewer, and public water mains exist on site for connection. As I mentioned before, there was a previous use on site, which was the former Marketplace Mall movie theater. So utilities currently do serve the site. Since the site was previously developed, the New York State DEC stormwater management design guidelines for redevelopment projects will be met. And the proposed project will result in a reduction of an impervious area, and it will also result in an increase in the green space area from the existing current paved condition. It's just a vacant parking lot currently. The existing drainage patterns will also be maintained as part of this proposed development. With regards to traffic, we've provided vehicular trip calculations for the proposed senior housing structure to both the Monroe County DOT as well as the New York State DOT. Only 48 vehicular trips are anticipated in the AM peak hour, and only 61 vehicular trips are anticipated in the PM peak hour. So given the low estimated additional vehicular trips, and also the fact that the peaks from the senior housing structure should be offset from the marketplace mall peaks and traffic for its retail, commercial, and medical uses. The proposed project really is not anticipated to have any significant impacts to the surrounding traffic network. The Monroe County DOT has also responded via an email on March 2nd that they do not have any concerns related to the traffic generated by the proposed development. I will turn it over now to Ryan Brandt of Rochester Cornerstone Group to discuss the proposed structure, and we look forward to your input tonight. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, can, is the audio coming through?
Pardon me?
Just wanted to make sure my audio was coming through. This is Ryan Brandt from Rochester's Cornerstone Group.
It's a little bit distorted.
You're not coming in that good. I couldn't even make out your name other than from Rochester Cornerstone Group. And we can't hear you at all if you're talking now.
Okay, I was trying to.
Name right there, what's that?
All right.
Ryan. Thank you.
Sorry, is that better? I called on my phone. I was hoping the my phone will work better than computer. But is that better?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm Brian from Rochester's Cornerstone Group. We are as Ryan Destro from BME introduced me. We're the developer for this proposed development. We're located just across the town line in Brighton by MCC. We specialize in multifamily and senior developments. We're proposing this. We've seen a trend both with our work and others to try and locate especially senior housing close to amenities. And I'm sure the board would recognize there's not too many more amenity-rich places than the Marketplace Mall campus, flanked by Highland, West Henrietta, Jefferson Road. So some market studies we had confirmed there's a lot of waiting lists with senior facilities around town, and so we think it'd be a unique chance to help remake the mall campus, and obviously Wilmerite agrees. This would be a ground lease with Wilmerite that we have a site control through an option through a ground lease, and we, as Ryan said, 4-story building, 150 units, and would create a nice little, you see kind of the L-shaped building would create a nice setting with a patio and some raised planters and some other things we'd have planned for that inner parking lot. It would have some space off the, away from Miracle Mile Drive. So as you can see, there's, connectivity, walking connectivity off to the, through the Dick's parking lot that's already sidewalks that are already connecting to Miracle Mile Drive, and it'll obviously be of great benefit to our residents, any staff there, visitors to the building, and anything like that. We think that's about all I had to say, but certainly we'll answer any questions the board members have.
Heather, can you also bring up the architectural rendering just for reference for the board members? There you go. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. So this is, as you can see, SWB Architects is who we've engaged to draw this building. Here's a rendering they came up with, and as you can see, there's some nice architectural features. That's fiber panel cement, fiber cement panels, I guess. Those lighter colored areas, and then we'd look to have some two-tone siding around the building as well, and still undergoing some maybe tweaks to the design process, and working with Lassassy Construction out of Rochester here, and work with them on some pricing models and trying to firm down what type of exteriors we can deliver to the town. So certainly be interested either tonight or hopefully when we're back for site plan down the road to answer any questions about the design. And we'd plan to have someone representing SWBR as well at that site plan approval meeting.
Thank you. I think this is going to be a nice redevelopment of that corner of the parking lot. Yeah, it's going to be convenient, and a nice amenity you might want to think about is putting in a moving walkway from these apartments to the orthopedic center just across the parking lot there. I'm sure that'll get a lot of traffic. So, but I'll open it up to the board. Mrs. Brill, do you have any comments?
No, I don't. I was surprised that it was 4 stories tall, but then I remember the new strong building that's going in. I think we're up to 6,
7.
7. It was 8.
Yeah.
Now it's down to 7, right? Okay, so thank you.
Mr. Borkowski?
Nothing for me. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. List?
Oh, yeah, I'm very excited about seeing this happen. I think it's about time.
I may reserve a floor for the planning board,
Just like, I think Marketplace Mall, just like Irondequoit and Greece have, they've all entered the retail apocalypse. And I think we've needed this to improve the aging display of sprawl at Marketplace. And combined with the incorporation of the UR's orthopedic center, I think the future is a bit brighter for that segment of Henrietta. I just wonder with, there's retrofits all over the country on malls, and this is a good example of that. But what are you doing to like soften the edges? Because it is, from the pictures, it's just in there, in the parking lot. Are you going, what's the connectivity to the mall itself and to Red Creek area along there? Have you thought about that?
Yeah, Heather, if you could bring up the mixed-use development exhibit again.
Ryan, are you looking for the overall or the second?
Yeah.
The overall?
The overall, the first one we looked at with the aerial.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, so as you can see on the western limits of the the ground lease parcel area, just off the western limits is Red Creek. We're providing green space and open space areas to the west of the parking areas for the use of the residents of this community. We're looking at providing possible amenities such as a gazebo in this area or possibly benches for relaxing and viewing or reading. Also, off of the northeastern corner, we are providing a new sidewalk connection that will be along the south side of Miracle Mile Drive, and then cross over directly in between the Marketplace senior apartments structure and the Sportsman's Warehouse. We'll cross Miracle Mile Drive via a new crosswalk, and then we'll connect into the existing sidewalk system that leads to the front area of Dick's. So we are providing sidewalk pedestrian connectivity from the structure and from this project site to the mall for use of the residents. And then we are also providing, like I said, additional green space areas that do not currently exist. We're removing a portion of the existing parking area and turning it to green space along the eastern edge of Red Creek for the use of the residents of this community.
Great, thanks. I look forward to seeing it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. List. Mr. Eckert?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have any additional comments. I am, again, looking forward to this project and this reuse of this space. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Mr. McIntyre?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
Ryan, this is advertised as senior apartments. Will other individuals be able to rent the apartments, or is it going to be restricted?
Yep. So right now we have a there's a you have a senior building or senior development. You've got to get a waiver, right, for kind of be able to, for lack of a better term, discriminate based on age, right, for taking people either above 55 or 62. So right now our plan is for 55 and up. So we would market and very clearly state our intent to have 55 and up. But there is, so there would be some, our plan right now is to work with the state on some income or affordability limits just to make the project feasible. But as long as individuals meet all the other requirements for the development, we would, we would have to enter into a lease with them. We would have to admit them. So talking with our property management, head of our property management agent or arm, I guess, Cornerstone Property Managers, she's been doing this for 29 years. She said she can count on two hands, I think was the term she used, the number of times that's happened where a 55 and up community, there's been person under 55, and typically it's someone with some type of disability, usually a physical disability that might want to benefit from an elevator building like this or an accessible unit, adaptable unit. Because of the program we're considering pursuing, it'd be a 55 and up selection, which means that even though we're marketing to, we're making it clear our intent to only lease to people with 55 and up. It's a very interesting rule I've become more familiar with recently. We would have to let people in as long as they meet the other requirements, but it's almost all one bedrooms, 142 of the 150 units are one bedroom units, and then 8 are 2 bedroom units. So it's it's not going to be very conducive to I'm sure people under 55 could live there, but again, just it is a possibility, but in reality, it never seems to occur that way because of the way that this housing for older persons allows you to again market to and declare your intent as a senior facility.
Okay. So you're saying that it's going to be 55 and up only, or are you saying the opposite?
Right.
55 and up only?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Gotcha. I'm all set, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. McIntyre. Mr. Page.
Yeah, I just, if everything goes according to your plans, when would you anticipate breaking ground?
So we're working with our design team. We've come up with a timeline to be able to break ground this fall, this November, December, but that's, assuming 4 or 5 months of construction drawings and getting into the town and everything. So I guess the biggest part of it too is the financing, working with the proposed lenders, some potentially being a state through the Housing Finance Agency through the state, funded the tax exempt bond. So that, because, if they're, they have limits on the tax exempt bonds that they can issue for projects like this. So it's going to be, that's probably the biggest variable right now. If our goal would be, and our goal still is to break ground November, December, but there is a chance, and we'll be sure to work with the town, and certainly when we're in front of the planning board again, hopefully in a couple of months, we'll have a better idea of what the timeline might be and when we can have all the funding sources lined up to break ground.
Okay, I just realized that there's going to be 2 major construction projects going on at the same time there. So I didn't know if the South Marketplace Road would still be viable. Poor Sportsman's Warehouse might be. I was just wondering about the flow of traffic. That's 2 major. There's not a negative thing. I was just asking for a phasing. I'm all set.
Thank you. Mr. Mistrella, anything you wish to comment on? No? Mr. Martin, anything?
I guess the only thing I'd like to add is that this is something that the town's been working on for a long time, is updating our code to allow things like this to happen. We're trying to get some redevelopment to some of our old plazas. So it is really exciting to see not only the URMC project going forward, but also the senior housing as well.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. We appreciate your visiting with us this evening, and we'll see you down the road sometime.
Great. Thank you very much for your time.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Okay.
Sorry, I was late to unmute.
Oh, that's okay. All right. Members of the board, we've got one more discussion item. Highland Crossing Business Park, they're requesting a 6-month extension of time for application number 17018. This project originally was approved on January 9th, 2018, and reapproved on March 26, 2019, with a 6-month extension granted on April 29th, 2020, and then on November 10th, 2020, with an expiration date of March 26, 2021. They were located at 350 Calkins Road in a planned commercial development zone district. This is the old Golf Dome. Remember that office park that we looked at a couple of years ago? So Dan, is there anything special we need to consider before we vote on this?
No, you can give 6 months extensions. There is not a limitation on that.
Okay, very good.
Do we know what's holding it up? I know they had a couple of people that were interested or tenants, but I think that went south, so to speak, whether it was COVID or something else. They're still excited about the project. They still want to go forward, obviously, but again, it's just finding the right tenants.
The VA hospital at one point expressed interest.
Mhm.
Have you heard anything on that?
No, not in a long time.
Thought they already had the facility.
That's an outpatient clinic they were looking to now build. Since that went so well and they liked the location, they talked about putting a VA hospital there.
No kidding. Interesting.
And a psych center across the street.
That would have been completely separate, obviously, from any kind of office or building.
Yeah.
Business park that was proposed. Cool.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, well, the chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to extend a 6-month extension to the application
Thank you, Mr. Page.
from March 26 to 6 months from that date.
We have a sufficient second.
Second.
Mr. McIntyre? Thank you. All in favor, say, oh, I'm sorry, comment, discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The motion carries. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Well,
Oh,
can
yes.
can we close the meeting and then
Yeah.
we can go over this last item so I can get
Yeah.
Heather, so she can leave?
Motion to adjourn. Thank you, Mrs. Brill.
Yep.
9:36.
All right, I did have one unofficial item. This kind of came in after the agenda was all set and I didn't want Heather to change it. But Napa Auto Parts, which we found out today is the old Outback,